We are here at the How to Leverage LinkedIn to Build Relationships, Test Your Ideas, and Become a Thought Leader webinar. My name is Francis Wade. If we haven't met before, and you're here at a webinar by Caribbean HR Forum, and tonight we're featuring Julie Turney and Ron Johnson. They're our special speakers. And tonight we have sort of a very different kind of setup. Matter of fact, they asked me to go ahead and play some background music. Ooh, didn't work. Oh dear. Let's see what happened. This was like our big surprise, but oh, wrong link, that's why. Hold on, guys. You need to try something for the first time. You're copying links and you're moving around and you have to jump between screens. I'm doing one of those things right now to try and play this tune in the background. Okay, YouTube tune. Let's see if you can hear that. Let me know if you can hear that tune and can actually see it. Hi Laura, welcome. Can you hear that music? And I can hear it. So you have to press play. I think you have to press play inside of the. I'll type it in. Press play on the video. But can you hear me? Yes, you can. Okay. I'm going to turn it down just a bit. And welcome you again. And let me share my screen. I think I have to turn the music off though to share the screen. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to cut this off to do everything all at once. Oh, because I'm not quite that fancy yet. Okay. Okay, so if you can, we can still see the music. Huh. Okay, how do we get rid of the music? I don't think we practiced that part, guys. Oh, there we go. Great. Okay, so welcome to the webinar tonight. Tonight's a very special one for many reasons. One of them is the fact that this is the first time we're tackling something related to branding, and Ron and Julie are the perfect people to have for a webinar tonight. And tonight we also happen to have a very big turnout. So those of you on YouTube, say hi to your moderator. I think Dale and Sean are over there. But we're supposed to get hundreds. We actually had about 300 or 400 people sign up for tonight, most of whom are viewing this on YouTube. So tonight's logistics. Once again, we're splitting the evening into two. We have two separate rooms. One happens after the other. The first one will feature the presentation by Ron, and it starts right now. We'll run for about 70 minutes. Ron will also take his Q&A, and we will end by Julie giving us some instructions. So Julie's instructions will launch us into our second room. So we'll come out of this room. I'll give you the new URL. You'll go over to the second room, and some of you will be on YouTube and some of you will be on Remo. Once again, you can decide which one you want to get on. There's limited room on Remo, only 50 people allowed. But then we're going to come back and we're going to start off in presentation mode. This is the plan at the moment. And Julie will give her presentation. She'll speak for about a half an hour, take questions, and then we'll all go into conference or networking mode. So it's a bit more involved this evening. We're still using the separate rooms, so it's as if we're closing the door on the one and we're going into the second. If you've never been on the platform before, you should know that you can chat by entering comments where it says chat. You could enter questions in the Q&A by just clicking on Q&A. It'll turn green and you can enter a question for our presenters. Question: how old is Ron really? That's my question. So I'm typing that question into the Q&A, see if he answers. He told me he was 39. I don't believe him, but be that as it's me. Let's see what kind of answers we get. So to answer questions, ask questions, you click on the green Q&A button over here on the right. Okay, so moving on. As you may know, this year, 2020 to 2021, is all about HR putting on its own mask first. That HR is putting its own development before other employees, unlike what's been happening since maybe the recession. So the work that we're going to be doing is taking us up until the virtual conference. Tonight's our 4th webinar in the series. It's going to lead into not exactly a coaching circle, but the model has been a webinar that leads into some kind of training, which then leads into our virtual conference, which is going to feature some of these very same topics. Virtual conference, you say? Don't know anything about it? Well, here's our landing page. Write down that URL. Free admission, and it's going to be in September, and we want it to be the biggest ever HR conference the region has ever seen. And registration is open now. However, we're not really launched yet because it's still early. We're going to launch and have a big splash in July. If you don't even have an idea what Carib HR Forum is and what the community is all about, here's a picture of our community, and membership is also free. Here you can go and catch one of the recordings of this webinar. And you also get a lot of different kinds of perks. So one of them is that you get priority acceptance into our coaching circles, which follow this particular training or webinar. Okay, and in the near future, we're going to have a couple, at least two more webinars. We're probably going to have a lot more, but the next one that's coming up is in 2 weeks' time. It has to do with returning to work after the lockdown, and we're going to be featuring a couple of doctors. Dr. Ann Crick and Dr. Hyacinth Guy. Ann is from Jamaica and Hyacinth is from Trinidad and Tobago. In 2 weeks' time, so make sure you don't miss that. And you may have seen this URL that I flashed up just above as I bring Ron onto the stage for him to do his presentation. Let me explain what that's all about. So Ron is actually going to be developing a training. He is developing a training. And that training is going to be made available to about 10 people for free once it's launched in about 4 weeks' time. So if you want to apply to be in his training, it's very easy. Just go all over to that URL, https://Ron Coaching. And here comes Ron. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand over the baton to him. There we go. He's turning on his microphone. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Remember that URL is bit.ly/Ron Coaching if you want to apply to be a part of his free training. Ron, I'm going to hand this over to you. Are you all set?
I'm all set. Yeah.
Great.
I see the one person tried to answer the question, how old is Ron really? As old as the hills, as Georgia Donaldson. You might actually be right. Before I get into my presentation tonight, I actually want to share a video. I'm hoping that the technology will permit very easily. All right, give me a second here. Is everyone seeing my screen? Francis, are you seeing the screen? Hello, Francis, are you seeing the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start off this presentation by playing a video for. I've seen it already, but that's perfectly fine. I'd like to start off all my presentations with something to at least put a smile on people's faces. So here.
Yep. Keep doing.
All right, well, Tyler, purpose. Minutes. John.
Has joined the meeting.
Hi, John. I was. Which is.
Has joined.
There you go. Is Paul here? No. We have not. Paul.
This is Beth. What's our best for the second quarter?
Question. Depends on how you look at it. Because they really come. Go ahead.
Let me say that. Okay.
My main concern was that they're just insufficient. You're taking into you guys take questions? John? What that? Let me start over. So presentation on screen right now.
Got it.
Well, it says plugin. We are using Max, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Talking
Finance was great, Paul. Staffing. Get down.
Like when I look.
To me, staff is a huge. A couple of details as we move into our next section here. Got three need to break it up a little bit, guys.
Run to the dead spot.
Detailed evaluations each
Sorry,
month
guys.
so that we know. That's it, guys. Beth, you'll send out a recap. This will be
Always.
Kind of funny video of you guys before I start my presentation, and I'm switching over to my presentation right now. Give it a second. All right, this session called Relationship and become a thought. The goals of today's session are pretty simple. I just want to highlight about 10 practical principles you can use to leverage LinkedIn to build relationships, test your ideas, and become a thought leader. So a couple of ground rules. We want to make sure everyone's mics are off so you don't get some of those same problems that funny video before. Please show the presenter some love. If you hear something that you are, that tickles your fancy, something you like, feel free to, hashtag something and say you agree, thumbs up, smiley face, anything at all. Type your questions in. Julie, who's like my co-presenter, will be moderating the questions, and I want you to ask a lot of questions so you can have a dialogue rather than a monologue here this evening. Some of you will be interested to know that today I will be giving away up to $150 in Amazon gift cards, and I'm going to ask Julie to moderate the questions, and one of the $50 Amazon gift cards will be given to the hypest participant. So the person that asks the most interesting questions, the person that is as rowdy as they can in terms of support for the presenter. That gift card is on its way to you at the end once Julie says you are the most hyped participant of today's session. So, a couple of things about me. My name is Ron Johnson. I am the co-founder of a company called Blueprint Creative. We're based in Barbados. We are one of the Caribbean's leading branding agencies. I'm also the creator of a framework which we call the Branding Equation. For those of you who are seeing my screen right now, that is not a typo. That's actually the way that we spell branding, Branding. And I'll explain exactly why in a few minutes. So we've also won 3 Barbados' Best Employers Awards for our company culture and our HR practices. We've won several ADDIE awards for our design work. So when we talk about things like company culture and employee experience, it's not something that we're talking from a theoretical framework. This is something that we live and breathe every single day at Blueprint Creative. So first thing I want to talk about is that this is not business as usual. COVID-19 has pretty much driven the global economy to a slowdown. Things that were perfectly fine 3 months ago, 6 months ago, are in limbo. And if we really want to make sure that we as individual HR professionals, brand professionals, consultants, etc., if we want to make sure that we are on top of things, we really have to become a little bit more aggressive for personal brands, aggressive with marketing our businesses, etc. I also want to highlight that a lot of people are very concerned about the state of their industry, whether or not they're going to survive. And I want to point out that biologists are very quick to point out that it isn't necessarily the biggest, strongest, or most intelligent, or even the fastest of these species that survive. The ones who survive will be those that can adapt most quickly to changes in their environments. So one thing about me is that I love branding. I really, really love branding. My entry into the world of branding was kind of interesting in the sense that I studied sciences most of my life. I studied sciences in secondary school. I studied sciences at Barbados Community College. I studied sciences in my undergrad. I spent 4 years studying biology. And about 3 months before I graduated, I realized I don't particularly like biology. So right after graduation, I enrolled in an MBA course. This was the first time I had ever done any sort of business course my entire life. I fell in love with marketing, came back to Barbados, worked with my dad in the printing industry. Unfortunately, he passed away about 13 years ago. And I, along with 2 other individuals, started a design company. I love branding so much that I became obsessed with it. And I actually developed what I call the branding equation. And it goes like this: BRANDING plus HR equals branding. BHRANDING. So what we realized very, very quickly in starting Blueprint Creative is that a lot of companies were very, very comfortable with marketing projects. They'd ask their agencies or their departments to come up with a great advertising campaign, a great social media campaign. And for the most part, these campaigns worked, and they brought customers through the doors of our clients. Unfortunately, a lot of times, the companies were not ready for the influx of customers. So customers would come through the door, they would meet disengaged employees giving mediocre service, they'd get very, very annoyed, and they'd leave very quickly without spending as much as they would have if they had met employees who were on point, who were highly engaged, and who were committed. So what we decided to do was to advise our clients, hey, we have nothing against advertising campaigns, but if we're doing these campaigns, we really need to take a look at things like employee experience, employee engagement. And one day I was sitting down in front of the computer, I looked at branding, the word branding was there, and the word HR was there. I was thinking, HR really should be involved in the branding process. I was trying to figure out a way to integrate branding and HR in terms of 2 different frameworks. And all of a sudden I thought, well, what if I stick an H right here, just after B and right before R? And I was like, this can work. And I was doing a workshop in the Cayman Islands, and I'd never used this word before. And the night before the presentation, I went and I added in this one slide with this equation right here you see on your screen. And I didn't know how people were going to react. And after the workshop finished, it was an HR workshop, a lot of people came to me and said, hey, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell my boss for a long time, that HR really deserves to be involved in the process of branding. And from there, we kind of expanded the topic. We did articles on LinkedIn, and I tested out this new theory of branding with HR involved, BHRANDING. And because of my testing partially on LinkedIn, I've spoken about the brand equation in Barbados several times. I've spoken about it in Trinidad, about it in Jamaica. I've spoken about it in Cayman Islands at least twice. I've spoken about it in Orlando, in Miami, in Mexico, and I've even been invited to speak on the topic of the brand equation as far away as Malaysia. And here are some of the pictures I've taken on my travels. Cayman Islands, Malaysia. I met some great people all over the world, all because I kind of took the risk of putting my thoughts out there that HR should be involved in branding. So we did some research and we realized that all over the world, there was a cultural revolution taking place. So if you take a look at Pizza Hut UK, for instance, they have one person responsible for both branding and HR. If you take a look at Airbnb, which is generally considered to be a great place to work, they've actually upgraded their HR department to something they call the Employee Experience Department. And that Employee Experience Department includes HR representatives, it includes people from marketing, it includes people from IT, a bunch of different things. And their thought process was, look, if we have an entire department for customer experience, we really should have a department focus on the employee experience. If we're going to focus on customer experience, we have to focus on employee experience. And I'm sure you guys would have heard a statement before. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. You know, a company's customer experience will never exceed its employee experience. Never, 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 ever, ever. So if you take a look at one of my favorite authors, Simon Sinek, he says, customers will never fall in love with a brand until the employees fall in love with it first. If you take a look at Richard Branson, another one of my favorite entrepreneurs, he says, clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. So there really is a huge movement on in today's world where HR is now taking center stage when it comes to branding. I actually spoke to one company in the US, they're a global company, and I spoke to their HR department, and their HR director said, we are really the first and the last lines of defense when it comes to protecting our brands. And they're in HR. And if you think this is only happening globally, it's in international markets, it's also happening locally and regionally. I was made to understand recently that CIBC First Caribbean actually has one director responsible for both HR and marketing. When I did my presentation in Jamaica for the HR Association, you know, I sat down at a table and there was a young lady across the room and she looked at me, she smiled, and she gave me her business card. And her business card said, Director of HR and Marketing. So Blueprint Creative was one of the first agencies in the world. So we didn't invent the trend of HR and marketing working together, but we were one of the first agencies, not just in Barbados or in the Caribbean, but we were one of the first agencies in the world to say, hey, this is a trend that's happening, and you as clients really should take advantage of that. So talk about putting your neck out there for an idea that you don't know if it's going to take off. That's precisely what we did. And fortunately for us, the response has been really, really phenomenal. Like I said, we've been invited all over the world, from the Caribbean, the US, Mexico, as far away as Malaysia. So I want to not start off, because we're pretty much into the presentation right now. But whenever I do a workshop, I always tell this business fable. And it's about these two hikers who were going through the forest, and all of a sudden they encountered this huge, massive bear about to devour them. So the first hiker, he immediately bent down, he started to tighten his shoelaces, and he was obviously preparing to make a run for it. The second hiker looked at him and he said, well, what the hell are you doing? You can't possibly outrun the bear. The first hiker, he took off on a sprint and he looked over his shoulders and he said, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. Obviously, for business people, you can get the theme of this story right away. Sometimes we don't have to outrun the entire bear. We just have to outrun our competitors. You know, the bear is going to take care of the weakest competitors out there while you escape and live to fight another day. So the first question I have for you guys tonight is, which hiker are you? If you are going to survive this bear that is COVID-19, you have to be willing to tighten your shoelaces and just make a run for it. So before I get into my 10 tips on how to use LinkedIn to become a thought leader, network, and build relationships, I want to give a very quick crash course on branding. Your brand is simply what people think and feel about your organization, its products, and services. So your brand has both an emotional component and it also has a cerebral component. It's what people think and feel about your organization, its products, and services. And if your brand is simply what people think and feel, branding is any initiative, any action, any program, or any behavior that influences what others think and feel about your organization. Anything. So yes, it includes social media. Yes, it includes advertising campaigns, but it also includes things like customer service, how quickly you respond to customer complaints, how quickly you resolve issues. It's virtually impossible for you to not have a brand. Think of your brand as your company's reputation. Even if you don't have a website, social media program, advertising campaigns, you are still building a brand, even if you are not actively doing it, because no matter what, people are going to think and feel a certain way about your organization and products. So I'm now going to get into 10 principles that you can use to become a thought leader on LinkedIn. And I started off this research for this presentation by just kind of like benchmarking what other people were doing out there in terms of disruption, presenting new ideas. And these principles are designed not to be just used only on LinkedIn, but these principles are designed to work offline as well, all right? So the first principle is to start with the end in mind. You have to figure out, what is it I want to do on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn? Am I trying to become a public speaker? Am I trying to become an author? Do I want more people to sign up to my LinkedIn page? Do I want to test out ideas? You have to have at least some sort of idea of where you're going with your strategy to become a thought leader. And one of the best books that I have read on starting at the end in mind is a book by Cameron Herold called Vivid Vision. It is awesome. It's a fairly short book. It's not a difficult read, but one of the reasons that a lot of people don't do well in terms of bringing their organization along with them when they're building a brand is because everything is locked up in the CEO's head. That CEO might have 10 people in his organization, 20, 100, or 1,000, and they really don't know what's going on in the organization. If you really want to become a thought leader, if you really want to put your ideas out there, and if you really want to bring your entire organization with you, this is one book I would highly, highly recommend. And I will be doing as I mentioned before, a couple of giveaways for Amazon gift cards. So if you're the hypest person on tonight, you may have an opportunity to buy this book for yourself and use it to help you become a thought leader and network. So the second principle that I want to talk about today is that you have to stand out. You really, really have to stand out. In your industry, on LinkedIn, you have to be doing something different. And I want to pull up this page by a colleague of mine, Dr. Rochelle. Very, very sharp mind. I'm not sure if she's logged on tonight, but Rochelle and I have some time, and Rochelle's interest really is in what she called the digital nomad economy. And she did some research projects in Asia. She's a Barbadian-born, UK-trained HR professional. And Rochelle and I had this really, really awesome session about maybe a year ago, and we came together and we came up with this term, gig HR, which really captures what Rochelle is doing. And this is a screenshot of Rochelle's page. And right at the top it says the gig HR experts. Rochelle has secured intellectual property for this. And if this term catches on, it's going to bring her and her colleagues, a lot of attention because this is something that she was able to protect. So, this is an example of somebody standing out there. I love the fact that she has gig HR in her LinkedIn profile. I really would encourage you to go and find her on LinkedIn, like her, follow her, and learn about her. She's done some awesome research with her colleague, Jeremy Blaine, who's also pictured there. Now, I want to remind you that if you are exactly the same as someone else, then one of you is unnecessary. If you're exactly the same as someone else, then one of you is unnecessary, and you're not going to stand out. You have to decide for yourself how exactly you are going to be different from the competition. So when people ask us about Blueprint Creative and what makes you different, immediately we tell people, well, you know, of course we love all aspects of branding, but our approach is very different because we try to help companies tear down the silos between their HR and their marketing teams and replace those silos with powerful organizational synergies. We are the only company in Barbados doing this. We're the only company in the Caribbean doing this. And we might, quite frankly, possibly be one of the very few companies in the world doing this. So, you know, when we talk to clients, we tell them we are the world's first branding, communications, and design team. And of course, they ask, what do you mean you're the world's first? Branding's been around for a while. And that gives us the opportunity to say, well, you know, we spell the word branding, B-H-R-A-N-D-I-N-G. And that immediately sets us apart, because I can say with a certain degree of confidence that Blueprint Creative is not exactly the same as any of our competitors. And Julie, if you're listening, if you are getting any questions from the audience, please feel free to interject and ask a question. I'm happy to stop anywhere through the presentation to respond to any specific questions that our audience may be having. Now, I want to bring on this screen here is talking about something called the hedgehog concept. And I know that was referenced by one of my favorite authors, Jim Collins. And he talks about the hedgehog concept, and it's basically 3 interlocking circles. And I'm going to move my cursor. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen, but the first circle is what are you deeply passionate about? You have to be passionate about something. And if you really want to stand out in the market, you have to start with things you're passionate about. The second circle is what drives your economic engine. So in other words, what can you make off of? And the third circle is what you can be the best in the world at. And if you follow these 3 circles right there in the center of the screen, that's where your sweet spot is. So if you're looking to stand out and you're looking to try something different, keep in mind this concept of the hedgehog concept. So for instance, for Blueprint Creative brand equation, I'm deeply passionate about branding. We do believe that we can be best in the world at the brand equation. And we do know that if we get things right, this can be a huge source of revenue for us. So throughout this presentation, I am going to be pulling up some screens with some of the books that I think can really, really help you guys to kind of take the principles that we were talking about this evening and go a little bit further. I highly, highly recommend Dorie Clark's book, Stand Up. This really, really worked very, very well for me because it showed me that to be successful in the industry that I'm trying to create, I have to be very, very different from everybody else around me. Again, Dorie Clark's work is a pretty short book. The principles in it are a solid gold. If you're gonna add something to your library list, I suggest you pick up her book. A second book is called Create Distinction by Scott McKean. This book is a little bit more involved, a little bit heavier reading, to be quite honest, but still worth it. If you're not going to read the entire book, at least see if you can get your hands on a summary book. And the third book I'm going to recommend here is Blue Ocean Shift. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes explaining what the Blue Ocean strategy is for those of you who may not be familiar with it. The Blue Ocean strategy basically says that there are 2 oceans that people compete in. The first ocean is the ocean, and it's red because it's of competitors. There are sharks in there, there are piranhas in there, and everyone is trying to battle each other out to get a bigger slice of a smaller pie, which is a losing equation for anyone. But then the authors are saying that there's actually a blue ocean. It's blue because it's free of blood, because there are no competitors. So if you want to take a look at a good example, maybe say Apple's iTunes. You know, they don't really have very much competition. If you want to buy music, you tend to go to Apple iTunes. There's not really much competition for it, so they don't have to try to compete based on price. So these are the 3 books that I would highly, highly recommend for you to pick up. So we're on to our next principle, principle 3, and that principle is to disrupt. If you're scared of disruption, you're probably not going to do very well when it comes to becoming a thought leader. If you have a new idea, you have to be able to disrupt the thinking of your colleagues. And I want to pull an example right here from the medical industry. And there is a doctor in the 1800s. There's a doctor in the 1800s, and his name escapes me right now. His name is Ignaz Semmelweis. In 1947, he actually came up with a theory that helped save lots and lots of lives. So at that point in time, what was happening was that doctors were actually performing autopsies on corpses, and without washing their hands, they would then go and perform childbirthing services. And the mortality rate was very, very, very high for people who are delivering babies. And this doctor came up with the idea of there's something going on with these doctors who are performing autopsies and dealing with corpses and not washing their hands. And he actually advocated that people wash their hands. And he was actually pretty much laughed out of the medical community because people didn't understand about germ theory at that point in time. Of course, he was right. And today, you will be hard to find a doctor in the medical community who would be willing to touch a corpse and then go and deliver a baby without washing their hands. So you really, really have to be very willing to disrupt this. I'm going to pause there for a second, Julie, to see if there's any person out there who is asking a question at this point in time. So Julie, if you have any questions, now is actually a good time to break. Julie, are you there? Julie, are you there? There are no questions, so I am going to continue along with the presentation if that's okay. I'm seeing something in the chat. Ron, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Can you share your slides? If the slides will be available after, yes, I can do it. Book list as well. And something else in the chat, right? Pausing to see if there's anything. At least about respecting the dead and the living. Tisha, I'm not sure which image it was that you cringed, put that in. Sean said water was scarce, perhaps. Water wasn't scarce, is that point in time that illness was caused by scents, and as in SCENTS, so people didn't understand what's going on there. Lara's saying, well, on earth won't they wash their hands? You know, it really, you know, at that point in time, the concept of doctors washing their hands was really, really ludicrous. But this Hungarian doctor, he was right on the money. And, you know, he was not respected for his ideas. I'm just bringing this up because if you have an idea that you want to put there and say, hey, I really think that we should be doing something different, and people laugh at you, don't worry, you are in very, very good company. I'm seeing, yes, Sean, another link there about anyone who wants to read more on the Hedgehog Principle. There's a link, that's great. And Julie mentioned you can use an Amazon card to purchase. Anybody else? I'm seeing a question here. Yes, so I know that Rochelle Haynes is there because she posted a question in the chat. Again, please make sure you follow Rochelle. She's doing a fantastic job pioneering big HR, and she's disrupting, and she's doing a great job. Lara asks if these books are available on Audible. Yes, a lot of those books that are actually on the screens, they are available on Audible or on Kindle if you prefer. Thanks, Rochelle. You said the diagram was very enlightening. I'm guessing you're talking hedgehog concept. I just want to see if there's anything else. Francis talked the emojis here already in the PC. Ron, you're doing a great job. Oh, thank you, Lara. Really appreciate that. Anything else? Julie's asking if any of this is resonating with you guys. Please, yes, please show Ron some love. Because when you're actually presenting, you really don't know what's going on because you're sharing the screen. So show me as much love as you can. Please do, really appreciate it, guys. And then I'm going to turn back to my presentation, and I am going to, yes, Rochelle, please. How about hey, heavy Ron? Thank you very much. Presentation occasionally to see if you guys have any more questions. But for the presentation. All right, let's see. How do I get back to the slideshow? Here we go. So, interesting quote by Jay Sami. He said, "To thrive, all businesses must focus on the art of self-disruption. Rather than wait for the competition to steal your business, every founder and employee needs to be willing to cannibalize their existing revenue streams in order to create new ones. All disruption starts with introspection." If you take a look at some of the biggest business blunders in history, Kodak, a lot of people recognize Kodak from being a pioneer in the film industry, but some people don't know that Kodak was one of the companies that first actually developed digital technology. One of their young engineers developed the first ever digital camera, carried it to the management team of the company, who immediately buried the idea because they didn't want to cannibalize their highly profitable film business. But guess what? Other people developed digital cameras, and as we know, Kodak filed for bankruptcy quite some time ago. If you want to take a look at Blockbuster, you know, they're making billions of dollars. Netflix came on the scene, disrupted them. Netflix is now a billion-dollar company. Blockbuster has only one outlet left. I think it's somewhere in Alaska, but it's more of a curiosity rather than a true business. And the thing about it is Netflix had actually offered to sell itself to Blockbuster. And Blockbuster thought to themselves, this is a small niche market. No one's ever gonna, this is not gonna catch on. And of course, they were very, very wrong. You have to be willing to cannibalize your own business. The act of creation inherently is about destruction. When you create something new, what happens is that you're forced to destroy something else. And if you don't destroy your own business in one way or another, every day, every week, every month, guess what? Someone's going to come and destroy it for you. So it's better for you to take the lead and destroy your own business and have a controlled environment rather than letting some person come and destroy it for you. Albert Einstein said, if at first the idea is not absurd, there will be no hope for it. So if you have an absurd idea, you're probably on the right track. Pat yourself in the back. People are doing a great job. Again, some books that you can read. On the left, First Break All the Rules. The second book is called The Innovator's Dilemma, and the third is called Lateral Thinking Skills. The last time I did a presentation, I had this many books. I got a message on LinkedIn saying, Ron, you just made me spend X amount of dollars on books, and I'm going to charge you for it. But again, we're giving away some prizes tonight. So one of those prizes will go to the most hyped person, and Julie's going to be a judge of that. Principle 4, be known, be liked, and be trusted. Again, business cliche, but it's a cliche because it's so true. People do business with others they know, like, and trust. And the aim of great branding is to become more known, more liked, and more trusted in that order. So when you're talking about branding, people say, hey, I need more brand visibility, need more brand visibility. That's only 1/3 of what we call the KLT equation. If you have great brand visibility, yes, you're known, but you also have to be liked and trusted. So just remember that even if you have a great idea and people don't like you as a person, don't like your business, you're not going to go very far. Carmen Gallo from the Storyteller Secret says, if an audience doesn't connect with you early in the conversation, and if they don't like you, it's unlikely you will persuade them to agree with your point of view. Even if you have a great idea, but you're not a likable person, you're gonna have a hard time becoming a thought leader. You're gonna have a hard time building relationships on LinkedIn or otherwise. This book is a classic. How to Win Friends and Influence People. This book really does teach you a lot of great principles in terms of, networking, in terms of connecting with people. There are several other books out there, but I wanted to give this book a limelight right now because it's a classic that's been around for such a long time, because the principles of the book are just really, 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 really awesome. Principle number 5, be a storyteller, but be careful whose story you tell. Now, if you look at the principles of great communication, you're going to recognize that stories have been around from the time mankind has started to communicate. From cave markings on the wall, to stories that have been handed down in ancient texts. If you take a look at the Bible, the Quran, other religious documents, we remember stories. We remember the tales of David and Goliath. We remember stories about, Atlantis, and some of these may be myths, but they've survived for centuries because people remember stories more than they were. Of course, you have photographic memory, but if you want people to remember something you're trying to tell them, embed it in a story. That's why I told a story very early on about the 2 hikers and the bear. You're probably going to remember that story a heck of a lot more than if I told you, if your business wants to survive, you have to run fast. There's no real story in that, but if you're telling a story and you have a great message, humor in it, for instance, you have to create some story to let people remember what you're trying to say. The more stories you can tell, the better. So I'll give you a true story. One of the when we're interviewing people at Blueprint Creative, one of the questions we ask applicants is, do you prefer Skittles or M&Ms? And people are usually shocked, and they're like, what are you asking me? Like, is this a real interview? We say, yes, it's a real interview. Do you prefer Skittles or M&Ms? And they'll give their answer. And to be quite honest, we don't really care if they're Skittles or M&Ms. The reason we ask that question is because there are tons of websites out there that teach you how to prepare for interview. And what we've found is by, they'll tell you, you expect some questions like, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? But when we throw a story like that out there, a question, it becomes memorable, and then people talk about it. So 3.5 years ago, I met a young business person, and we had a conversation. And he said, well, where do you work? I said, I work at Blueprint Creative. And he stopped. He said, Blueprint Creative, is that the company that asks Skittles or M&Ms during their interviews? And my mouth dropped open because, well, people had obviously remembered the interview process so well. Other people, and those people told other people, and then all of a sudden, people started referring to us as the company as Skittles or M&Ms during our interview process. So these stories can be funny, these stories can be dramatic, but you have to tell stories. But you have to be careful whose story you tell. One of the biggest challenges that people have when they're telling stories is that they think that they're the hero in the story. This is absolutely incorrect. Your brand, you are not the hero of the story. Your customer is the hero of the story. You are actually the guide to your customer. So if you go about telling your stories constantly and it's all about me, of course you have to tell people about your business, but you have to tell it within the context of what you can do for people. You are the guide. I remember once my sister and I went to a business networking event, and someone came up to us and introduced us to a potential client, and the client said, well, what do you do? I was ready for this guy. I was like, well, we do design, we do logos, we do business cards, we do annual reports, we do publications, we do social media, we do advertising campaigns. And after about 3 seconds, I could have said, Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? And he would not have noticed because he'd already been tuned out. He'd already tuned out. Because why didn't I realize at that point in time, no one really cares what you do. They only care what you can tell them. So now when people ask us, well, what do you do? We tell clients, well, we help customers build stronger brands and stronger businesses. And the people that we want to communicate with, they understand that language. And they say, okay, well, I need a stronger brand and a stronger business. How does that work? How we help them build their brand. And I'm hoping you can see the distinction between those two scenarios. One, me rattling off a list of items that we do that people don't really care about. Or two, saying, here's how we help you to be better. So if you're going to tell stories, of course, you need to tell customers your name, what you can then, but recognize that you're not trying to sell yourself as the hero. Your customer is actually the hero. So for instance, the brand equation, you know, when we talk to a potential client, we tell them the benefits of breaking down the silos between marketing and HR and how that helps them. So again, some books I would highly recommend Donna Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. That talks about, it gives more detail on this whole concept of you are not the hero, your customer is the hero, and you are the guide. Another great book is The Storyteller's Secret by Carmen Gallo. I included this third book, Influence and Income. This will be specifically for persons who want to be leader by writing a book. It's by a lady called Tanya Hall. She works at a company called Greenleaf Book Group, and they are a hybrid publisher. And it's really kind of a real expose into the publishing industry and how people can go about publishing their books. So if you're particularly interested in writing a book, I would highly recommend that you read this book, Ideas, Influence, and Income. By the way, I've just finished the first draft of my very first book. It's currently being proofread, and I'm hoping to have that book out and available in a couple months' time. And I really hope that you support local or regional publishers, and I hope that you pick up a copy when it becomes available. Principle number 6, I'm going to speed up. I really want to leave some time for questions. You need to add value. Yeah, you need to add value to other people, because especially on social media, you can't go and ask and have it straight away. That's not really how social media works. It's called social media for a reason. You need to be social. Look for ways to collaborate. A good example, for instance, is tonight. You know, I'm collaborating with Julie Turney. She's an awesome agile HR coach. You know, I mentioned Dr. Rochelle Haynes. She's not paying me to include her in this presentation. I just think she's really, really awesome in what she's doing. Collaborating with Carib HR Forum. You have to add value. You need to be able to add value, and then people make a decision on whether or not they're going to network with you, whether or not they're going to give their ideas a chance. And this is an awesome book called Friend of a Friend. The basic premise of this book is that the way most people do networking is really, really, really wrong and really horrible. How many times have you guys gone to a networking session for your industry and you see the same people you see every networking industry, at every networking event? And guess what? You take a soft drink, or you take some wine, you see some person you know, you walk over them and you spend half an hour talking with them, and none of them are really adding value because you're in the same network. What this book teaches you is that your dormant links can actually be more valuable. People you haven't spoken to in 5 or 10 years, because they've developed their opportunities in an area that you don't really know about. Reestablishing those links with people, you exchange each other's networks, and that actually brings more life and more vibrancy into your networking. So I decided to test this out, not for my own benefit, but for other people's benefit. And I remember reaching out to Rochelle. I said, Rochelle, I think you should, apply to speak at Barbados' HR conference. I reached out to a good friend of mine. We went to primary school together, and he's now a doctor. And using the principles of the book, I reached out to him and said, hey, Kenneth, do you do public speaking? He said, yeah, I do. I said, where do you typically speak at? He said, well, I'm a medical doctor, so I do a lot of medical workshops. He said, I think you should consider speaking to an HR audience. And he was like, by not an HR. And I said, exactly. But some of the things you talk about as a medical doctor do have an overlap in terms of HR when it comes to mental wellness. Physical wellness, health, lifestyle, work-life balance, work-life integration. And, he decided to go for it. I spoke at the HR conference in Barbados last year, and he was awesome. So, if you're looking to add value, this is a really great book to pick up. But I would suggest if you do it, go out to add value to other people as opposed to using the book's principles to try to add value to yourself. When you add value to other people, you generate a lot of good karma, and it comes back to you eventually. Let's see, I'm actually going to switch back over to any learning going to receive. Yeah, it's real. Someone obviously was there when Kenneth did a conference. Let's see what we have here. Yeah. Julie asked Laura, how old are you? I haven't seen anyone take a stab at how old I am. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't see anyone. So no one wants to give a stab at it. That's perfectly fine. So Julie, again, if you're seeing any burning questions, free during this presentation, but for now I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I see Rochelle Haynes saying, yay, congrats on pushing my order. No, oh, I'm hoping you're talking about my book. I should really be taking pre-orders. So right now I'm just going to switch back over to the presentation, and we are going to continue from here. I'm hoping my Bajan accent isn't giving you guys too much trouble. I know a lot of people are there from Jamaica, and if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. Principle number 7, learn something new every single day, every single day. So I want to share a quick story with you. To be about maybe 10 or 11, and I remember we were going on a family excursion. My dad was driving, my mom was in the front seat, I was in the back seat, and 2 other people were in the car. And they were listening to the news, and the news reporter said, they were reporting about a fire that happened. And the news reporter said the fire completely razed the building to the ground. So when I heard that, my ears perked up, and I said, hey, that reporter made a mistake. You can't raise something to the ground, because raise means putting it up. And my mom, who is actually was a French linguistic teacher in school, she explained to me that there are 2 different spellings, at least, for the word raise. R-A-I-S-E means to bring up, but R-A-Z-E means to destroy. So the fire razed the building to the ground. The reporter was very correct. And of course, I felt a little bit embarrassed. I said defensively, well, how am I supposed to know that? My teacher never told me that. Mom gently explained that you can't rely on your academic training to learn things. You have to go on a lifelong quest in order to continually increase your knowledge. I try to take that to heart, and this principle right here is actually one of our core values at Blueprint Creative. If you take a look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs, Warren Buffett, the guy that started Microsoft, if you take a look at Mark Cuban, who's a billionaire, Elon Musk. Elon Musk has a business building rocket ships. And when people ask him, how do you learn to build rocket ships? He says simply, I read. Mark Cuban said something that was very, very interesting. When people asked him how he became so knowledgeable, he said, I just read a lot. And he said something that I took to heart. He said, everything that I've read to build my business empire was available to everyone else, including this person asking the question. But guess what? You didn't choose to read it. I did. If you had chosen to read the same books that I did, you would probably be a billionaire right now. So, right now at our company library, we probably have close to 300 on branding, communications, leadership, and all our team members are encouraged to take those books and read. So if you really want to increase your knowledge, learn something new every single day. I'm not putting any books for this. I just want to show an image of a library. There's so many books out there that can help you become a thought leader, that can help you build a stronger brand, and as Mark Cuban said, I'm going to say the same thing to everyone listening here. The information for you to become very successful in your business is out there. And for a couple of bucks, you can subscribe to a learning platform like LinkedIn Local. For 20 bucks, you can buy a book from Tony Hsieh or any of those guys. And for me, I have a lot of great mentors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company called Zappos.com. Their CEO, Tony Hsieh, is phenomenal. He's a multimillionaire. And Tony Hsieh is actually one of my mentors. And he's given me great advice. And if you're probably wondering how did I meet Tony Hsieh, I have never met the man in my entire life. But I've read his books. I've listened to his interviews online. And even though I've never met him, he's made a tremendous impact on the way that I do business. And you too can have billionaire mentors. All you have to do is be willing to invest $20 US or less to get an audible book, to buy a book. The information for you to become successful in your industry or to become a thought leader is there. The question is, are you going to invest in that knowledge? If you don't like reading, listen to podcasts. You know, I used to spend a lot of time reading. Then things got really, really hectic for me. I switched over to Audible, actually. So, you know, I'm driving. You know, I don't listen to the radio very often. And actually, I remember my dad carrying me to school when I was a kid. You know, I was probably the most unpopular person in school because I didn't really know the hit songs on the radio that other people were singing or making reference to, because my dad was listening to cassette tapes of Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, David Ring. I absolutely hated those sessions. But he was listening. It's his car, he's driving, he listened to it. And when I started my business with my two co-founders, all of those lessons that I hated back in the day were dormant, and I just came back up at the right time. And that's how, you know, we're able to build our company. Principle 8, keep walking. I'm saying that not because I want to endorse this particular brand. If you choose to drink it, that's up to you. But you need to keep walking, because there are going to be people who are going to try to cut you down. So I remember I had taken the big chance of writing an article on LinkedIn. It's about branding. And this was before I had come up with the branding equation. It was about conventional branding, as in BRANDING. And this one guy, and you know, I was incredibly nervous. I hadn't really published a lot on LinkedIn yet. And this one guy gave a scathing review under my article. And he said, and I quote, "Branding professionals are nothing but wolves in sheep's clothing trying to get their grubby little hands on more of the corporate spend." That's a direct quote. Branding professionals are nothing more than wolves in sheep's clothing trying to get their grubby little hands on more of the corporate spend. And I purposely waited about 24 hours before responding because I was understandably hurt and a little pissed. And my sister, who's more level-headed than I am, thank God, you know, she helped guide me through an appropriate response to this person. I said, "Thank you very much for your perspective." You know, by the way, this individual was in public relations, believe it or not. And you know, I said, "Thank you for your perspective. You know, it's important that we're able to have, you know, solid and passionate disputes about the way our industry is changing. But one thing we should never do is to tear down other people and their ideas." I didn't hear from him after that. But people will try to cut you down. You got to keep walking no matter what. I want to switch forward a little bit to principle number 9. Be the trolls, but do learn from them. As you go out there and create your new ideas, whether it's in HR, whether it is in branding, marketing, finance, accounting, racing cars, planting trees, whatever it is, trolls will be out there who will be trying to cut you down. Don't engage them by feeding them and making things worse. You have to learn from them. Understand that people may not see things the way that you see them, and that's their right. It's also their right to kind of cut you down. It's a free world, but you don't have to stoop to their level. Don't feed trolls, but learn from them. You are going to make some mistakes, and this is a fantastic book here, Permission to Screw Up. Listen, Kristen Hadid is a fantastic writer, and for the first couple of pages in her book, she screwed up royally. And every time I screw up, I think to myself, if Kristen can recover from her fantastic screw-ups, I can recover from this. Another quick story I have for you. A colleague of mine, we went to British Virgin Islands for business, and we hopped over from Tortola to another island. I think it was called Virgin Gorda. and it has one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Crystal water. It has these great granite boulders. And what happens is that you're led through these little tunnels, and these tunnels have about waist-high water, crystal pools, and it's really, really amazing. It's called the Baths. If you ever go to Virgin Gorda, make sure you go to the Baths. And we finished the tour. On that particular day, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of tourists on the beach. And some of the tunnels are actually pretty small, and you have to kind of squeeze through them. And because it was very small, there was like a group of people just waiting for their turn to go through these small tunnels. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, I just got really bored. I told my colleague, said, Tanisha, and by the way, there's a big sign on the wall saying turn right for exit. But I looked on the left, and there was this just beckoning me. No one was going left because everyone was going right. That's the way the exit was. But I was like, the entrepreneur in me said, I'm going to explore this pool right there. And my colleague said, Ron, why are you always going exploring? Just wait your 15 minutes and go right. I said, no, I'm going to explore this thing. So I went to the left, and there was this beautiful pool, and it was really great. No one else was there, and I felt very privileged to see this picturesque area with crystal water. And I stumped my toe really hard. And, I went back to my colleague, I said, Tanisha, I laughed, I said, I really stumped my toe. And she said, well, I'm glad for you because you're not supposed to go left. So after about 5 minutes, I'm walking, and the water went down now to about not just waist high.
Ron,
but, yeah.
I'm jumping in because we're going to get kicked out in just a moment. And I have to share. I have to share the screen. So everyone should have gotten the link in the chat. The link to it starts back at 7:15. Sorry to interrupt you in mid-sentence, but it really does cut us off right at that moment. So everyone needs to click on that link and jump over, and then it'll move over to that one. And if you're on YouTube, you can actually use the same link. But I'm gonna send a different link to YouTube. Let me stop the recording there, and then we'll pick up when we get over to the other rooms. Everyone needs to jump over to the other room. Just follow that link, and on YouTube we'll put up something different. Okay. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that, Ron.
No problem.
All right, we're gonna stop the recording and then jump over real quick. Okay, it's gonna kick us. When it kicks us off, we can go over. We actually can't go over before then. So I need to make a couple of changes here. I'll take us off.